We're at the Canada Post Board of Review looking into the matter of Your Ward News. We're with Mr. Paul Fromm of the Canadian Association of Free Expression. Could you give us a rundown what happened today, Paul?
Yes, it was a lot of legalese battling back and forth as to what the role of the committee was. We actually understood today was going to be the constitutional challenge as to the constitutionality of Section 43 of the Canada Post Corporation Act, the one that allows the minister, if she has reasonable grounds, to impose an interim prohibitory order, basically prevent a person from sending or receiving mail in Canada. The lawyer for Dr. James Sears and Leroy St. Germain of Your Ward News made some strong presentations, particularly about the unfairness of the procedure, the fact that the minister has not given any reasons and has simply served a pile of copies of Your Ward News or photocopies from Your Ward News. There was also strong presentations by Professor Jamie Cameron, who's with a Free Press Group, and from the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, and of course from ourselves. And we were arguing, the Canadian Association for Free Expression, we were arguing very forcefully that the act is unconstitutional because it's completely open-ended. The minister, reasonable grounds is very, very fuzzy. In this case, she said she had reasonable grounds to believe that Your Ward News was violating the so-called hate law, Section 319, and defamatory libel, Section 390. And I pointed out that there had been no charges. Last May of 2016, when the interim prohibitory order was made against the editor, Dr. James Sears, and the publisher, Leroy St. Germain, Your Ward News had not been charged under the hate law and not been charged for defamatory libel. We're now 15 months later, they still haven't been charged. And our argument was there was no reasonable grounds. In fact, not only is the act unconstitutional because it imposes unreasonable restrictions on free speech, it basically allows the minister to shut down unpopular publications. And I suggested this was somewhat like what goes on in nasty banana republics like Venezuela, where the president just shut down 80 opposition newspapers, or in places like Zimbabwe, where they even had a law which made it an offense to make fun of the Prime Minister, who at one point was named Canaan Banana. But I was trying to point out we're not that righteous in this country either, and that the several times this law has been used before, it has always been to shut down right-wing thinkers. In one case, John Ross Taylor, from many years ago, in 1983, Ert Zundel, he got his mailing rights back, but it's used politically. And I suggested that when powerful special interest groups make some noise, put some pressure on the minister, like the Canadian the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, perpetual liberal troublemaker Warren Kinsella, or busybody-in-chief in this country, Richard Warman, under pressure, the minister simply invokes this power and it's essentially shut down, or tried to shut down Your Ward News. Shucks, though, it didn't work because of the ingenuity of the publishing team and the fact that James Sears was able to get the paper distributed in other ways. But that does not take away from the fact that the rights of the Your Ward News and actually the the editor, Dr. Sears, and the publisher have been violated. And some of the other people on the other side, like B'nai B'rith, said, well, it's not really all that bad. I mean, they found other ways. The fact is that they have a right. The post office is an essential part of the government of Canada, has been that back to Confederation. They have a right to use the post office and not to have that right arbitrarily revoked. They also pointed out that the act itself is defective. The minister must appoint a tribunal, a review board, if the victim of the interim prohibitory order asked for one, but there's no time limit. And the minister, it took over 7 months before she.
Well, I definitely got the impression that the Board of Review seemed a little lost in their mandate.
Yeah,
and that they not only asked the Attorney General, but also almost every lawyer that made submissions today, what they thought their position should be, that how they should proceed with this review. Do you think that the people that have been appointed on this review panel are competent? I got the impression they were asking what they should be doing.
I think they're looking for guidance because, as they said at the first day of hearings back on April 27th, there's almost no precedent. The last such hearing was, I think, in 1982 in Sunderland. That's 35 years ago. So there isn't much legal precedent. They're trying to figure out whether they should hold a full-blown inquiry. Now, it would appear that the spokesman for the Friends of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, who will be up again tomorrow, they're looking for a full-blown trial. What they would like is every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's got a gripe against Your War News to come forth and do a big boo-hoo-hoo. That would be more properly in front of a criminal case. If they really think that somebody's being the victim of libel, sue Your War News. But they haven't. Well, the hate law, there have been numerous complaints under the hate law, but there's been no charges. Well, I think it would be highly improper to have what it would appear they want to do, to have various witnesses and complainers come forth and say, oh, our community's so upset, oh, we're suffering.
Well, yeah, I got that impression with the board asking who the offended parties would be in this case.
And the spokesman for the Attorney General of Canada couldn't even answer that. Well, the minister won't let him. So the committee has been told again and again they must go through this pile of photocopies, which would be copies of Your War News. And I guess one of the...
And unfortunately, that's all the evidence they have, is what the paper is printed and publicly distributed.
And they're supposed to somehow go through that and determine if the law's being broken. And our position is the law's not being broken. That nobody's ever been charged. This is a witch hunt and a fishing expedition. And this is the decision I think the board's going to have to make. Do they want to go there, or will they take the easy route that we have suggested? Look, the law's unconstitutional, but if you don't want to go there, the behavior of the minister is beyond the pale. She's presented, she had no reasonable grounds because there have been no charges against that paper. She's attempted to ruin the paper by buggering around 7 months before she appointed the review committee. Utter bad faith. Their recommendation should be revoke that prohibition.
And your position is that this witch hunt or fishing expedition should end now.
Should end now. I would be very happy if
with a recommendation to the minister that the interim order be revoked. Correct?
Yes.
That's the impression I got too. That this is now turned into a fishing expedition.
Well, there are people who'd like to, and I think the review committee is trying to decide what its role should be, because if it goes into a fishing expedition, this will be make work for lawyers for the next year. I mean, the number of potential witnesses, professional complainers, whiner.
Well, from the circus of lawyers we saw today, I'd have to agree with you there.
Yes.
Thanks for your opinion, Paul. You've been very helpful.
Thank you. And thanks to all the people who came out. And we had good support.
Day 2 of the Your Ward News Board of Review hearings. We're here again with Mr. Paul Frum. Paul, you want to give us your opinion on today's proceedings?
Yeah, today was a kind of a short day. Interesting that there were 3 Jewish interveners, and they all had an opportunity to speak for half an hour. There's the Friends of the Simon Wiesenthal Center. They spoke yesterday for about 5 minutes. Nothing today. B'nai B'rith about 15 minutes. And I didn't think their submissions were all that significant. The heavy hitter, though, was a lawyer named Mark Fryman, who's a professor at Osgood. We've tangled with him on free speech issues before, for instance, back on the Zundel internet case, the Zundel site. And Fryman spoke on behalf of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. Everybody was supposed to have, all the interviewers were supposed to have half an hour, but he was given an hour and 10 minutes, and he went on and on and on. He spoke a lot about definitions of the law and legal cases, some of which were relevant. However, the bottom line seemed to be, when push comes to shove, that what he wants is a full-blown hearing where he said, I represent Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, and we represent Canadian Jews, and they are impacted by Your Ward News. We are victims. Your Ward News is spreading hate, which makes our group feel afraid, and we want to be able to talk about that and so on. He also took a whack at me because of something I said yesterday. I said that some people felt Your Ward News was offensive, and he said Mr. Fromm tries to play down hate by calling it offensive. It's not offensive, it's hate. Well, that remains to be seen. The Attorney General has had 3 years to lay charges and hasn't. And this is what the enemies of free speech do a lot. They toss out these loaded words about hate speech, but there's no such finding. And the fact that Your Ward News is largely satirical never comes into it. So that was what the other side had to say today. And then it was the time for the lawyer, Samara Spector, for Your Ward News, and she got to rebuttal, and she really hit hard. She had a very, very effective closing rebuttal, and she put it to the committee a number of things. The minister has refused to give reasons, and basically that should be enough to have a recommendation that the interim prohibitory order be cancelled, be revoked. She hasn't given reasons. She hasn't proven her case. In fact, there was quite a lot of discussion yesterday and today. Well, what are the groups that Your Ward News allegedly has promoted hatred against? Because the minister said she had reason to believe Your Ward News had violated Section 319. Well, the minister...
Well, nobody seems to have an answer to that, though, Paul.
The minister refuses to say. And Samara Spector was very effective in saying, if you carry on an inquiry, you read through the passages for Your Ward News, and you try to figure out which of the groups would be, you may not even have it right.
Well, that was the answer of the Attorney General's office yesterday as well, when asked who the offended parties were that this supposed hate speech was directed at, and they refused to answer the question as well. Why are they all refusing to say who the offended party is supposed to be?
I don't know why they're playing so coy, but this is really good grounds on the matter of fairness to end this right here. So at the end, so what the committee decided was that they would they reserve, which means that they'll go away and think about it. And the decisions for them, basically with the strong urging of the lawyer for Your Ward News, would be to issue a recommendation right now that the IPO or interim prohibitory order be revoked. And she said, my words, not hers, but time is of the essence. Your Ward News has been silenced in terms of the mail since May 26, 2016, and time is ticking. This is 15 months ago, and there's an urgent need for a remedy now, not in the future. Because if there are further hearings, well, they could be on the constitutional question, which would be more limited, or they could go on where every one of the interested parties gets to tell their tale of why they're so upset, but none of them has sued for libel, and there's been no charges under the hate law. The minister has no reasonable grounds for this, so that's where the argument is. And I was rather interested in what did not happen. Warren Kinsella, who spends most of his time in court tweeting, and he put out some really offensive tweets yesterday, among them making nasty comments about some of the members of the committee. And I know these were conveyed to the committee, and I was surprised that they didn't say anything, but maybe they've already taken a measure, Mr. Kinsella.
Okay, and we don't know when the next hearing date is going to be. We're waiting to find out. So thank you, Paul, for your analysis today, and we'll see you at the next hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.